Hey dude, here, catch! Wow, that was so fast! That's because I've been playing heaps of these fast tile laying board games. Tile placement board games have engaged many gamers for a very long time. Tile placement games usually involve players placing out irregular shaped tile pieces out onto a flat playing surface or a game board in order to score bonuses, create paths, or earn victory points. In this video, we'll look at 5 fast gateway style tile laying board games that you can introduce to your friends, your family, or your work colleagues, or even bring it to your local game night. Number 5. In Serie, players will be carving out their own road to alignment by placing a series of line tiles on a 6x6 grid with the aim of carving out the longest uninterrupted continuous line possible for their little stone marker to follow. There is a catch, however. Up to 8 other players are also attempting to carve out the same long continuous line on exactly the same board, which makes it really difficult. The player whose stone marker can remain on the 6x6 grid the longest and not get knocked off by the other players will be declared the winner of the game. Across the game, each player will have access to 3 tiles each. Each tile contains a series of lines that connect from one edge to another. Each player's stone marker will begin on one of the nodules on the edge of the game board. Throughout the game, players will select a tile from their hand, rotate it to its desired orientation, and place it on the board, causing their player's stone marker to move along the maze. Towards the end of the game, as the board fills up, some players will collide with each other or fall off the board altogether, eliminating them from the game. The player whose stone marker outlasts the others will win the game. I recommend Serie for new gamers because the rules are so simple to teach and so easy to play. You can kind of explain the game in about a minute or so. The turns are fast and there's a huge element of spatial thinking that comes with this game. I mean, players need to think about the orientation of the tiles that they have in their hands and how they place them out on the board and how that might affect the other players. They need to think about the direction of movement of their stone marker and where their stone marker is positioned on the board overall with respect to the other players. And also, that moment where you get out of a really tight corner is so awesome. I like how the game has this beautiful crescendo where as you get towards the end of the game, you know, eventually the tiles are going to run out and so are the spaces, which means the game is going to have this really cool ending. And also the decision making in this game does require an understanding of how the tiles and the lines actually fit together, and knowing which way to rotate them and place them can really help you gain an advantage in your game. Number 4. Kuba is an adventure-themed tile-laying game where players take on the role of Indiana Jones-inspired explorers as they go searching for treasure. The player can create the most efficient pathways through the jungle to connect their explorer to temples, gold nuggets, and crystals, will earn the most victory points and win the game. Across a game of Kuba, one player will be drawing tiles from the shuffled face-down stack of tiles and calling out their number in bingo-style fashion. Each player will take the tile that was called out and either lay the tile on their island grid map or discard the tile to move their adventurer equal to the number of exits on the tile they discarded. Players are attempting to position the different tiles acquired to create pathways through the jungle on their board to allow their adventurers to reach the 4 different coloured temples. There is also an opportunity to nab up some crystals or gold nuggets on the way that appear on the paths. If players can connect an efficient labyrinth of paths that will work together to efficiently allow their adventurers to navigate through Kuba, those players will be rewarded with success in the game. Absolutely recommend Kuba as an excellent gateway family tile placement game because there's so much depth to the decision making that happens in the game. You know, players have to understand the geography of where they're going to place their tile on their map and how those tile placement might affect the future labyrinth and connections that they're going to build as the other tiles come up in the game. Also, understanding the different tile types and how those different tile types are going to fit on your board. I mean, are you going to use a tile with 2 exits differently to a tile with 4 exits? Are you going to use the tile with 4 exits to try and build a more efficient labyrinth, or use it to advance your adventurer further through the jungle? So there's that huge element of binary decision making about whether to place the tile or move it, which really tears players apart. Also, the sense of timing of when you're going to send your adventurers to a temple. Do you send them really early and get the victory points early on, but then, you know, reduce the number of adventurers that you have on the board to collect all of those crystals and gold? And that element of building a cool labyrinth each time you play is just so much fun. Number 3. King Domino is a tile drafting domino laying game where players take on the role of the monarch as they compete with each other to try and conquer and develop the richest territories possible. The player who places their dominoes most efficiently and effectively and scores the most victory points will be declared the winner of the game. Throughout a game of King Domino, players will be constructing a 5x5 kingdom by drafting tiles using their king meeples. Each domino in the game is split into 2 sections and come in a variety of different terrain types. Players want to ultimately select and place their dominoes in their kingdom that best helps them to create a large connecting scoring zone. There is a catch, however. Players can only score territories that feature a royal crown icon within it. Each zone is scored by multiplying the size of the territory by the number of crowns held within it. Royal crowns act as victory point multipliers, as the more crowns you have, the greater the number of points yielded at the end of the game. There's a reason why King Domino won the Spiel des Jahres award in 2017. It takes the very simple game of playing dominoes and elevates it to another level. It introduces tile drafting, area placement, as well as interesting victory point scoring mechanisms, and meshes those mechanics together to make a very well-oiled machine. I really like the fact that when you draft tiles, each tile has a number on the back, and then when you place them out, you've got to place them in sequential ascending order, meaning that the tiles further down in the order of tiles that are placed out are going to probably have those crown victory point scoring icons, whereas the tiles further up are not going to have those icons, meaning that if players want those crown icons, they're going to have to sacrifice their turn order in the following round, which makes for some very tough decision making. Number 2. Barron Park is a polyomino tile laying game of bear-sized proportions where players are competing to build the best bear park possible through building enclosures and animal houses. Players will aim to construct their zoos on animal park tiles and expand them, and ultimately erect bear statues as symbols of their achievement. The player who constructs the most aesthetically pleasing zoo will gain the approval of the public and win the game. Players begin their zoo with 1 park tile, and over the course of the game they'll have the opportunity to expand their park to 4 park tiles in size. Each park tile features several different icons that are triggered when covered with a polyomino tile. When players place a tile over a green wheelbarrow, they can take a green tile from the supply board. When they place one over the white truck, they can take an animal house. When they cover an orange excavator, they can take an enclosure tile. And when they cover a group of construction workers, they get to claim a new park tile and add it adjacently to their park tile boards. When players place their polyomino pieces out, they'll need to place them orthogonally adjacent to a previously placed tile. The puzzle here is to try and place high-scoring tiles into their park to cover as much space as possible. You also want to be covering your tiles really quickly so that you can nab those high-scoring bear statues. The player who most effectively covers their zoo with high-scoring polyomino tiles will win the game. I absolutely adore Barron Park, especially because it's visually engaging and it's got this excellent table presence to it. People walk by, look at the game, and are immediately drawn to the colours that are in the game. I also like how the game is very reminiscent of Tetris, with the different tile configurations and trying to fill up the space, whereas in this game you're presented with a range of different size, combination and different shape tiles, hence the title polyomino tiles, which you use to try and fill up your board. I like the graded variety of pieces and how they're categorized. The green tiles score you 0 victory points, but they help you to fill up the park and nab those bear statues first. Also, the enclosure tiles are really big, cover up a large amount of space, but also score big victory points, but they're very irregular in shape, meaning you kind of have to figure out how it's going to fit with the other tiles you've already placed. I also like the fact that if you cover up multiple icons on your park tiles, you can acquire lots of different tiles into your personal supply, and that kind of means that you prevent other players from acquiring certain tiles, in particular when you can see that they need them. Number 1. Carcassonne is a tile laying game of medieval proportions as players aim to develop the area around the famous French city of Carcassonne by placing tiles, placing meeples, and scoring victory points. Through developing roads, cities, monasteries, and fields, the player who places their meeples out most strategically will gain the most victory points and win. Starting with the following tile in the center of the table, across the game, players will be drawing map tiles, placing them down to build a shared landscape, and then deciding whether to place a meeple onto a land feature or not. Meeples can be placed in different features, including on the road, scoring the length of the road when it is complete, as a knight, scoring the city when it is enclosed, plus 2 victory points for each coat of arms on it, and also as a monk in a monastery, scoring points for each surrounding tile when it's complete. Because all players are contributing to the same map, some features will be competed by multiple players at the same time. In this case, the player with the most meeples on that feature scores the points. The player with the most points at the end of the game wins. Carcassonne is one of my absolute favourite tile placement board games. It's got a very simple rule set, so it's easy to teach, a very easy access point, yet this breadth and depth to the strategy that's involved in the game is huge. I really adore the fact that players are building this shared map, so because it is a competitive game and players are working on the same map, there's a huge element of competitiveness to the which particular meeples you're going to place your scoring features on, and you're also sometimes trying to piggyback off the work of others. So a player could be, starting a part of the castle on the left side of the board, and on the right side of the board another player could be starting another part of the castle, but then throughout the game, if that castle joins together, becomes a mega castle, then the player who has the greatest number of meeples on that castle is going to be the one that scores the points. So there's that huge interesting tactical element to the game that I really, really love. I'm a huge map maker at heart. I love drawing maps and creating maps, and being able to build a map each and every game is so fantastic, and seeing a different map each time you play is just really, really cool in itself. I also like the fact that, you've got only 7 meeples to work with, and, if you invest in a particular feature like a monastery and, people choose not to place their tiles around your monastery to help you complete it, then, you're gonna, be 1 meeple down where you could have invested somewhere else and gained points elsewhere. Players get to decide where to place the tiles, means that, players could be inadvertently helping other players to gain points, or they could be placing them strategically so that the other players don't gain points. So there are huge multi-levels of layers in this game that really brings me to this game time and time again. Ooh, I hope this video helped you to decide on some brand new tile laying games that you could introduce to your friends or family. These 5 are some of my favourite games to introduce to brand new players, and they work very well as gateway games. I love tile laying games because they're got this beautiful, excellent table presence, and the art on these tiles are often quite vivid and eye-catching. Thank you once again for joining me for another Board Game Sanctuary video at Board Game Sanctuary. If you really like this video, please remember to place a tile and then remember to hit the like, subscribe and share button. I would really, really appreciate it. I want to say a huge shout out and thank you to all the people currently supporting me and my channel as I approach my 100th video. Oh my goodness. Anyway, thank you once again for joining me. I'll see you again soon for another Board Game Sanctuary video. This is Danny signing out. I'll see you guys in the near future. Goodbye.